Hello, Jennifer. Welcome to Revitalized Womanhood. I'm so glad to finally have you here and finally to be able to chat. Just you, just me. I don't have to share you with anybody else. I
Oh
get
my gosh,
all
I feel
of
the
the time.
same.
I'm so excited. We were just chatting before, and I'm like, well, let's start recording. Let's just
I
start
love
recording
it.
because so I was just explaining, my listeners may already know this, but my husband and I are in a place in our marriage where he's always been the go to work and do all that. I've had jobs and whatever, but then we decided as a couple when we wanted me to quit and be home with our kids. And luckily, what that meant for us is he had invested in some properties. And so I was able to become a stay at home mom, but also run and manage by the end of it, seven vacation rentals. So I was cleaning them,
Wow.
managing them, taking my kids, dragging them around with me, but it made it so I could be a stay at home mom with them. So anyway, now starting this last June, we were in Alaska and he came off of a hunt in Hawaii with my business partner. So there is a male counterpart to what Revitalized Womanhood is. It's called Order of
Okay.
Fame. And so they came up with the idea of it's time for this successful movement for men. It's going so well. It's time for us to do this for women. And they came to me and said, would you like to do this? And I was like, yes,
Mm.
absolutely. And that's why when you guys launched Unstoppable, it was like that same time that I'm like, I need this in my
The
life. This is
stars aligned. It was perfect.
was perfect because they came to me to do this. And so I was explaining to Jennifer, that's my husband has now gone back, not gone back. He's never been a stay at home dad. So now he's out of the workforce and as a stay at home dad now.
Look at that. You know what I love about this conversation is like whether you're in a marriage or you're running a business, there is like pivots are going to be happening forever.
Forever.
And I think when we get so married to an idea or a version of way things should be, we miss out on opportunities for maybe something even better that's out of what we could have dreamed of. Because I'm guessing this isn't what you saw coming necessarily, is that you would switch roles, but you're just meant to serve and to help and to be like everyone's cheerleader. That's what you call yourself. And literally, like, you signed up at a point in our planning of this event where we were a little bit discouraged. I mean, it was no small feat doing
Yeah.
what we did and getting a room full of people there. And just what you bring in terms of just pure love and support and belief and just knowing that you're in my corner, like I can't imagine what a gift you are to so many people. Because I got a little taste of it. Like you said, we didn't have a lot of time together, but like I loved you immediately. Like when we connected on Instagram, it was like love at first sight, if you can call that a thing on Instagram, but it really was.
I actually just got off the phone with a girl that I'm going to be recording with next. She and her husband do a podcast and they are amazing. And I was like, something had happened. And so you know how communicating through this stuff, it's not very accurate and quick. So I'm just like, give
Yeah.
me your phone number. Just call me. This is too much. So she called me and I'm like, we were having a conversation and I'm like, well, just so you know, let me skip ahead. In my brain, we're already best friends. So in my brain, we already have this relationship. We've already like done all the things and the small talk.
Yeah.
We're best friends now.
Yeah.
So let me get you to the place where I'm at. And she's just laughing and she's like, yes, I get it. I don't.
Yeah. I love it. I love it.
So
Well,
let me introduce you to, I've already introduced you a little bit to my listeners, but why don't you introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit. You can go as deep as you want or just scratch the surface because I don't necessarily need to have you bog yourself back down because of how far you are in your journey out of
mhm.
that. So just give us the who
Ooh, where do we begin here?
you've got to begin at the beginning, but
Well, back to the just like my life has not turned out the way I thought it would. Oh, wait, am I the only one, or is that pretty much everyone, right?
exactly.
But where I'm at today is an absolute result of some very painful things in my life, things that I didn't know if I was going to make it through. Really severe childhood trauma, sexual abuse, near death experiences. I mean, as traumatic as you can imagine. I don't like to give details because it's not really relevant or necessary, but these memories were suppressed until my mid 30s. And I was a seeker as long as I can remember. I was in counseling while I was a teenage bride, but within the first year of marriage. So it was a 19-year-old. I was in marriage counseling trying to figure out what was wrong with me. I had this illusion or this dream that somehow getting married and having someone that just loved me and that was just for me, that would fix this void or this hole just black hole within me. And it didn't work. Surprise. And luckily I didn't marry an axe murderer, because what do you know as a teenager as far as who you're going to marry, right? So we're still married. And it was a very challenging process being married and staying married and then having kids, which was very natural for me personally. That wasn't my biggest challenge. It was really that intimacy in marriage and that connecting and trusting. And I didn't know why. I thought he was the bad guy. So fast forward after decades of, healing work, energy work, coaching, different modalities, I just had hit a wall. And I had, was looking for someone or something to fix me. And when I really, really started to heal was when I was able to uncover the suppressed, really traumatic abuse from my childhood that really affected the entire trajectory of my life, my relationship with myself, my relationship with others, my relationship with God. And I didn't know that it was there other than that I knew something wasn't right. And I had spent so much time trying to uncover it. And so that began another journey of really dealing with that and healing from that and healing my relationships. But then it evolved into a situation where this person who had caused me so much pain had also sexually abused other people. My kids had been around him. So we were put in a position where it was time to press charges. And so you just re-traumatize yourself when you have to go through the legal process, sharing your story with a detective, and then going to trial and having an attorney literally scrutinize everything about you and disparage your credibility. Everything about you is on trial. And what's interesting is I was guilty until proven innocent. My uncle, my perpetrator, was innocent until proven guilty. And it's an interesting imbalance in the legal system, but that's how it is. And so luckily we had the right detective, the right attorneys, the right jurors, the right judge. And it was a miracle. I mean, less than 3% of sexual abuse, childhood sexual abuses even get reported. And then like 1% of those actually get a conviction. Now there's numbers all over the map. The numbers are irrelevant other than it's like winning the lottery, or even the chances are even harder to get a conviction the way that we did. It wasn't just me, there was a couple other people, but it had been decades. So during all of this process, I was working through my own pain, working through my own healing. And then we finally get to where we have a conviction of 402 years, which is a long time.
That is.
So when you take that into consideration, you kind of pay attention, like you probably don't unless have been in a trial situation like I have. It's almost unheard of. That will give you an idea of the magnitude of the pain that he caused and the level of abuse that he inflicted on those that were unfortunate enough to be in his path. There was 3 of us that were part of that particular trial. There are more victims. And I think what's beautiful about all of it is, after we had that conviction and things kind of turned a corner, so to speak, I remember people saying to me, "Oh my gosh, you can finally have closure. You can finally heal. You can finally move on." And I'm like, no, what if he didn't get convicted? What if he was still like many pedophiles? It's very hard to get a conviction because it's basically he said, she said. And there's not usually corroborating evidence. So it's just a matter of all this, all the things aligning properly. But I think this applies to everything. Because if I was waiting for a particular outcome for my happiness, for my healing, for my growth, then I was turning that power over to something that's out of my control. That healing, that peace, that forgiveness. I've been working on that as long. I mean, I can't remember a time that I wasn't trying to heal and to figure myself out. Even before, like I said, I knew what had happened to me. And so that led me to then do my own training. I do energetic healing, behavior kinesiology. I do energy mastery. I do coaching. I have a dig program where I train people to do what I do. I do retreats abroad, France, all over the place. All of that's great and wonderful. The event I just did, Unstoppable, but ultimately, I come from a place of total humility because it's my pain that has gotten me here, that forced me to look at parts of myself I may never have looked at if I hadn't been in so much suffering and so much disconnect. There was such a dissonance between outer Jennifer, who was happy and easy and fun and funny, to like the inner Jennifer, who was just, there was self loathing and just so much pain. And so I always just go back to that. There's people that feel the way I felt right now. There's people that feel like they can't move on. There was times I thought life would be easier if I was just gone off this planet. I really dealt with suicidal ideation and a lot of deep pain. And so I just go back to, I figured it out. I had the right people at the right time. And if I can figure it out, anyone can figure it out. It's just being willing to say yes to you and allowing others to help you and to understand there's nothing wrong with you. But we need tools to work through things that are difficult, that are challenging. And that doesn't make us weak, that makes us strong when we can get that help. So that kind of brings us to the present. That was a long explanation. I hope that wasn't
It's
too much
okay because it's
information.
beautiful. It's beautiful. And a couple things you said in there. I mean, I've already known because you shared this, and everybody has heard all the things about Unstoppable because I brought back so much from it, and it's shaped me in a great way, and it hit me at the perfect time it needed to. But what you were talking about, that with how, yes, this is it. You can finally move on. No, it's like once you get to if you're setting a goal for yourself, no one ever gets to that. Okay, I will finish working when I get to $100,000.
Yeah.
Guess what? No one ever stops there. They get to $100,000 and they're like, well, that wasn't that hard. Maybe I think I can get to 200,000, or I
Yeah.
can, or like you're looking at a mountain and you're like, oh, that's so hard. I can't climb that. And you start climbing it. And then you finally get to the peak of it and you're like, whoa, okay, I did it. And then you look up and there's another peak and you're like, okay, well, I'm just going to, it wasn't that bad. I mean, goals, you're never done. You're never done.
Yes.
Everyone thinks that that's like the zip that happened. So you're instantly fixed.
Exactly. And I think that piece is, and it's the same for healing. You're really never done healing. Like I am a former perfectionist recovering. And like I almost treated my healing as, okay, I'm going to do this and then I'm going to check it off and I'm going to move on and I can help people. I'm simultaneously healing and helping people all the time. And when we can embrace that and embrace that the goals and it's ongoing, then we don't have to deal with that letdown of either we should be done or we should feel a certain way when we reach a goal, because really the growth and the effort is what brings us the joy, not necessarily accomplishing it. So
Yeah. And not even joy, but it's what you're saying is it's building the character in you, and it's building the ability for you to see it in someone else that maybe someone else needs. And I love that you are where you can help other women, because what if you hadn't done Unstoppable when you did? What if you hadn't gone on that one dig retreat when you did? What if you hadn't, I mean, who would have been affected by that?
yeah.
You have to think about, so when I opened this, I was supposed to open it on September 15th. And the people that were helping me with the word saying, yes, it's fine. Go open it, do it. And I'm like, no, it's not ready. It's not where I want it to be. And so I did balance. I didn't have that tug of war in me going, done is better than perfect. Right.
Mhm.
And so finally October 1st comes and I'm like, it's not perfect, but something in me just kept saying, you have got to get this open, because what if something is happening that I don't understand out of my control somewhere in the universe, that if I hadn't opened this the day I did, could have affected someone so negatively, or couldn't have
Mhm.
helped these women that signed up with me right from the beginning in a way that I've helped them this month. You know what I mean? So
Uh-oh.
I was going to say, did we just lose?
I think we got to pause a little bit.
Okay, sorry. I had a little notification come in. Well, I love I've got my notes. Look at me with my,
I love it. Okay.
like Patrice said, information without implementation is worthless. So I've got mine out because I really, really, really loved what you talked about. Diamonds. You've got a diamond is a rock that did well under pressure.
Oh, yes.
I love it. I love the points you were making and under.
Oh, at the event, the CPR, the choice,
Yes,
the
yes, your CPR.
Chris,
Yes,
and
yes. This one was,
the,
so this one says under pressure, she became a diamond. Under pressure, she became unbreakable. Is that RH Sin? But yeah,
oh,
you talked about your CPR and I loved it. It was
oh,
amazing.
I'm so glad.
It's all about I think it relates so well to a lot of women that I have in my group right now, and hopefully a lot of women that I will have in my group eventually, because stay-at-home moms and even moms who have work from home businesses or even that have to work part-time to try to help supplement their income in their family, I think we all constantly feel like we're treading water
Mhm.
and maybe drowning, even like you said, drowning. You're trying to tread water until you absolutely can't anymore, until something absolutely has to give. And that's such an important uh, value. Is that the word I want? To be able to recognize that in yourself, to be able to step back and say, okay, I'm not doing okay.
Yes, I love that because I think even, I mean, it's such an easy analogy to relate to the drowning because there was times definitely when I mean, it was a real thing. And then you kind of upgrade to treading water. You're like, oh, sweet, this isn't as bad as that. And then we stay there. But treading water over time will just suck the life out of you. It's soul crushing. Treading water is not drowning. So I mean, we want to honor our growth and our progression, but really getting out of the water and choosing what we're going to do and just like living and thriving, not just surviving. Treading water is just barely surviving,
Yeah.
just barely. And I think it's so important to really check in with ourselves what that looks like. Because what thriving looks like for me might be different for you. But when we lose that sense of wonder and excitement for life and that passion, we really want to take the opportunity to look and stay attached and connected to that because it's like that childlike joy and just excitement for life, zest that sometimes we lose along the way. And sometimes we might even start with a business idea, like where it's really fun in the beginning, like Unstoppable, the conference. It was like the creation period was like Christmas every single day. And then it came time to, market, sell tickets, deal with all the things that just inevitably go wrong when you're putting on a huge event like this. And then it was like, oh, wait a minute, this isn't really fun anymore. So, how do we get this back to being fun? Well, getting back to being fun is getting back to the passion and the purpose, which was to serve women, to bring women in from all over the United States. Some women came from Canada and really provide a space for change, for like um, real transformation. So, like, I would challenge you wherever you are, whether you are a stay at home mom or you're trying to grow your business. The reality is you're going to start out excited, and there's going to be days you're like, what did I get myself into? You always want to go back to the why. And you want to go back to that soul space and that connection and that space here, not the mind, which is like when we're trying to figure things out up here, that's when there's that disconnect. So just go back to that why, because inevitably important, valuable, game changing things in our lives. And when we're going to be doing that for others, we are going to hit a wall. It will be challenging. And that's why we always want to go back to the why so that we can let that fuel us rather than you know getting stuck with what isn't working.
Yeah. At what point did you touched on it, the childhood, like enthusiasm and excitement? It's at what point did we stop wishing that we were a ballerina or wishing that we would, I'm
No.
going to be an astronaut or I'm going to be my kids, my oldest, he always wanted to be a paleontologist. Always,
Ooh,
always
I love that.
paleontologist, and it's at what point do we stop being so curious? And Rick and my husband and myself, we talk about this a lot when we're traveling with our kids because it's so different. And we try to, encourage people to travel with their kids because yes, I get that there's stress that comes with it. I get that there's different cons, but also me going to the redwood forest by myself, I'm going to see it how I see it, right?
Mhm.
Me going to the redwood forest with my little kids, I am not only going to see things through their eyes physically because I have to get down to their level and see what they're seeing. I'm going to see these new things and have these new experiences, but you get to see it through their eyes in the way that they are seeing these new things and
Mhm.
experiencing these new things. You know what I mean? So when do we stop? I think it's when you start caring so much about what society expects of you. You know,
Exactly.
it's got to be because I know those little bits of habits are instilled into us in our childhood from our family, from, whatever reason from society that we get these little teeny habits that start forming
Yeah,
unintentionally.
and I think, that programming that we get, it's inevitable. We all have programming from our childhood, from the way we were raised, from society. And while we're not responsible for that as adults, we're 100% responsible to figure it out, to fix it, and to break the cycles that we've taken on from our own familiar family, from our family of origin or from whatever that programming looks like, so that our kids have a different opportunity than we had. And, like we're each going to have our human experiences, but the more work that you and I do as parents, as mothers, the less work our kids are going to have to do. First of all, they're not going to have to do our work. Because if I'm being honest, a lot of my original work going to therapy, I was just cleaning up things around my mom and different things. I like there were so many layers. And the more that we remove ourselves from that and allow our kids to be who they feel called to be, allow them to tap into their inner knowingness, the less work they're going to have to do because they already know how to tap into their true self. It's when we detach from that we bring on the shame and the disconnect and the unhappiness because we're chasing a version of ourselves that others want us to be. So the greatest gift we can give our kids is number one, doing our own work, and then allowing them just to screw up, to make mistakes, to dream big, to make, to have failures, to have successes, because then they own it. They own all of it. They own the great and they own the crap, but it's on them. And I'm telling you, that was a hard thing to undo. I have 5 kids. I have a 27-year-old down to a 10-year-old and a grandson. And the way I parented my oldest and the way I parent my youngest, it's like I might as well be two different people. But what my oldest benefited from me is that he saw me in this healing, taking accountability, and just owning that I don't have it figured out. And I've made some mistakes. And thank you for loving and being patient with me through all of it and giving him permission to be a human and to figure out his own stuff. And then my younger daughter, who's, you know, like the way she shows up in the world is just free because she's not carrying my weight around with her. And we do that, especially with our mothers. It's just really fascinating. So, going back to letting our kids teach us, like you said at the Redwood Forest, where you can just experience things through their eyes, it's like they're a gift to us, and then we can be a gift to them and allowing them just to hold on to that as long as possible because life will kick it out of you. Even in the most idyllic upbringings, we still are going to have to figure things out. But the more, again, that we have figured out, the less our kids have to figure out.
I don't know if there's an easy way to ask this. So kind of just hang on with me here while I try to land this plane and make this point. What would your advice be from having to go through all this, from learning these lessons, so for a mother so like maybe me, who I have a very hard time, you've been through this, I know, of letting go. I'm just more of this helicopter. Now I'm not, because I'm not even in the house, but I am like constantly trying to control things that
Mhm.
I shouldn't be. There's no reason for it. I'm telling women all the time, I'm like, you know what, that pile of laundry, that let the kids do it. And it doesn't matter if the baby's jammies are all thrown into a basket. It doesn't matter if their shirts are not folded the way you would do it. It doesn't matter. And I'm sitting here saying it, but I have to be super intentional still. I have to recognize that it's a fault that I have, that I cannot let go of those things and I'm working on it. But what would be your best advice for that kind of a thing, is like letting them?
Letting them go. Okay, that's a really good question. And there's so many directions I can go. But one of the first thing that comes to my mind, and it's not an exact answer, but I'm going to circle back to this, is don't make it about you. Don't make it about me. So I have a daughter who came out as gay. She was 19, almost 20 years old. I come from a very, a religious background that does not, this is not, I did not see this coming, and this is not something that's necessarily welcomed. And it was never an issue with religion, or like I love her, I support her, it's not a problem. Like, she's incredible. It didn't change any of that, but I still had a level of a mourning process that I was going through because of the visions that I had for her. And I was mourning that, the life that I thought she would live, which, as it turns out, what she's creating is much better than anything I could have ever created, right? But we had a really relatively smooth process. I mean, it's painful. It's new territory for all of us. But I remember even just a year ago, she said something to me. She goes, Mom, I always felt loved by you and supported. I knew you were in my corner, but you still made it about you. I was like, okay, interesting. And for me, that's a victory, because she could tell me that and I didn't get butthurt by it. And we were able to have a really powerful, really meaningful conversation, because in my mind, I was like, well, you've known for 20 years, according to you, or like since you were 3. So whatever that is, at least 15 years, you knew this. I just found out. So I need some time. But when our kids aren't cleaning up their rooms, when they're not doing well in school, when they talk back to us, whatever it is, I mean, are we making it about us? Or are we really allowing them to do what they need to do to figure out who they are, to become the greatest versions of themselves? And of course, we need to have boundaries, and it needs to be accountability and all of those checks and balances. But at the end of the day, what really matters is their integrity, is their ability to tap in to their knowingness, to trust themselves, to make hard decisions, to do hard things. And sometimes we managing it, it's like the butterfly and the little, we want to go take that little caterpillar and take that cocoon off because it's just so much work. We want to make it easier for them, that little caterpillar. But what happens when we do that? That caterpillar becomes a butterfly that can't fly, that's weak. So to kind of circle back to your question, like, it's hard when you have young kids because you're in the logistics of laundry and homework and soccer and practicing and doing their jobs and all of that. But if we can really tap into connection over correction, and really not making it about us. If my kids succeed or they don't succeed, it's not a reflection of me. And when I could let that go, I mean, each one of my kids has taken a very different path. They're all very intuitive, kind. They're giving back to society. They're strong-willed, but they're like if they would have followed this prescribed path that I thought they needed to go on, they wouldn't be the extraordinary human beings that they are today. So I am so grateful that somewhere along the way we figured this out, because the more they can tap in and do things because they want to do it, not because they feel guilted into doing it or obligated or expected to do it, that is what we want for our kids. So if it means them living in squalor in a messy room because they're choosing that, shut the door and let them deal with it. If it means they don't have laundry, I mean, my son, we went out of town and I put my back out last week and there was no laundry happening at our house. So he had to do his laundry and deal with it and figure it out. And it's like, they can do a lot more than we give them credit, right? And so allowing them and trusting them to figure it out empowers them in a way that will change their entire life, versus us thinking that we know best and that we need to manage it. Because basically what we're saying when we're controlling them is, I don't trust you. You need to look to me to make your decisions. I know what's best. And that's the kind of family that I was raised in. So again, as an 18-year-old bride, I was just like trying to find something to feel good and something to be independent. And I just stepped from like a family to a marriage, and there was never really any time for me to figure out who I was. So I've had to figure that out on my own in a marriage as a mother. But imagine if we give that to our kids and just allow them the space to figure it out. they will be so far ahead of where I was, where we probably were in the way that we were raised, and allow them to like, I don't even look at it as mistakes. I look at it as lessons. Allow them to have lessons that maybe don't turn out great. It's a lesson. We're always have the opportunity to look at our losses and our gains as what can we learn from it. Both have equal benefit. They both have absolutely equal benefit. And if we can have that perspective, things don't seem so catastrophic when things go wrong, because it's like there's always a lesson or something to be learned. So anyway, kind of a
You
long answer to your question, but
it
I'm
wasn't, it
obviously
was
very
perfect.
passionate about it.
And you were like speaking directly to me. And I bet a lot of women that are listening to this are going, wow, she's speaking directly to me. Because that's exactly, but it's true. It's like Sally said in hers, she was a lawyer. She was a lawyer. She was raised to be a lawyer. That's what she was supposed to do. That's what she was meant to do. And one day she was like, I don't want to be a lawyer. And, she's a grown woman completely, where you do not change your career. You do not change what you
Mm.
want to do. And she was like, yeah, I don't want to do this anymore. You know what? It's fine. Let them make those mistakes. It's like going to college and, okay, this is the point. Rick and I have these views on college. Our kids, we don't encourage them to go to college, in the sense that before they go to college, we are going to require them to go travel. We'll pay for them to go travel around the world for a year, have their gap year. Like most countries do, they encourage this gap year. And while they're doing it, they have to read the books that we tell them they have to read, that are going to help expand their brains, whatever. Of course, if they want to come home after that time and be a doctor or be a lawyer or be something like that, yes, of course, they're going to have to go to college. But in the meantime, go explore what it means to be you.
That
Think
is
like
beautiful.
in your upbringing and my upbringing, we very similar. And I talk about this a lot. We're not allowed to do that. We're
Were you
not.
raised LDS? I don't even know if I knew
Yes,
that.
yes,
Okay.
I am.
So yes, similar. Yeah, I get it.
So I am a long line of LDS that I was the first one to be somewhere completely different. But and that's fine. I love my family. I actually you wait till you hear the episode I recorded with my mom. She's the sweetest thing. So I have 7 brothers and sisters, and my mom
Mm.
was raised in a family of 6 kids on a farm, and it's so yeah, it's anyway, any Hoosers. I really love talking to her. But they they I we don't know who we are. Your brain is not developed till you're 25. You don't know who you are.
And you're making,
And
like,
you're making
especially in our culture, you're making the most important decisions of your life. Like I said, I could have married an ex murderer. Oh, but he did X, Y, and Z, so he's good.
he's a
And we
returned
were so
missionary.
like, we were two like thirsty horses on a long journey looking to be like, we were so dehydrated of love and all these things. And it's like, he couldn't give me water because he didn't have it. And I couldn't give him water. And we were just punishing each other for something we didn't even know how to do. We
Yeah.
didn't know how to do it. And I just think the gift in all of this is breaking these cycles, allowing, I don't even, not even allowing, just giving our kids space just to like, use, like, I love a gap year.
Mhm.
I love the idea of like not going the traditional route. And and when we can shift and show up differently, it gives them permission to do that. It gives everyone around us permission just to be free to be who we choose to be. There's nothing more like claustrophobic feeling than living a life that was handed to you that's out of expectation and duty and obligation and fear. It's like that's not living. That's not living. And it doesn't have to look the same for you. I have, like I said, many of my family members are very active in the church and they're wonderful people and it works for them. But as I've gotten farther along, I've just realized it's going to look very different for me than it looks for a lot of the people that are in my family, that are in my community. But I'm okay with that because I've worked really, really hard in my way to get to know what I call God, what to have healing, to have that spiritual connection. No one can surpass that because I was at the depths of hell and my religion didn't get me out of it. My family didn't get me out of it. It was me finding that strength within myself to ask for help, to heal, and to garner that strength that I always had within me that I often deferred to these other organizations and people outside of myself. And so whatever that looks like for you, back to how we parent, back to all of it, is be willing to get uncomfortable enough. And I call it productive discomfort, because to look at all parts of yourself with love, with gratitude, and allow yourself to be you, like you said about your kids, just to be you. Who do you really want to be? What do you believe? What lights you on fire? What do you want to do? Not what are you expected to do? Like, this self-betrayal bullcrap has got to stop. It's not serving anyone. And we're kind of raised to do that in this religion that we were raised in. It's the ultimate self-betrayal, and like it feeds codependency, and it feeds all these things, because we're not taught that we know what's best for us. And when we can really trust that, that's when we can give that to our children, which is the ultimate, again, gift. Anyway, I
Yep.
love it.
I actually did a little rant. I had a rant on Facebook, on my Facebook group yesterday, because my sister-in-law was talking about having someone on to talk about mom guilt. And I was like, so here's the funny thing. And I don't know if I'm naive for saying this or I'm ahead of my time for saying this, but so from a very young age, I was very independent. Did not want to be part of what anybody was telling me what to do. I would just leave the house at a young age and just go and explore and not come home. And I always fought against not I guess not the church, because I was too young to know what I was fighting against, but organized anything. I kind of fought against it. I didn't want to do what anyone was doing. So I think that has served me so well in my life as far as where I am now, because I don't have mom guilt. You know what I mean? Like, the way that she was asking about it or talking about it was the mom guilt when you have to go to work, leaving your kids, versus the mom guilt you have of being an employee and not being able to do the job that you're there to do because you have to take care of sick kids, or you have whatever like that. And I says, well, first of all, if you draw the line of who you are, and you know who you are, and you know what your core values are, you know, okay, my family comes first, period. Right. So then you're not going to feel guilty when your kids get sick for missing work, because your kids come first. So that job can burn down for all you care while your kids are, I mean, you have to have some responsibility.
In that, like, you coming first so that your kids can come first. Like, it's entrusting that you're doing the best you can do. Like, you trust yourself enough that it's okay if other people are wrong about you.
Oh, you just took it way deeper. So you just went even deeper than that. So the foundation that I just set, you were right here underneath it. You did the work underneath to make sure that you were a strong enough foundation to even have the strong beliefs that you were okay choosing your kids first.
Yeah.
It just blew my mind.
But I mean, it's just what we're here to figure out. And I think it's not going to look, I mean,
Same.
yeah, I mean, you're paving the way for your kids already by being willing and open to do things differently. And while that might have came natural to you, I can imagine there was still some growing pains in breaking away from so much of what was expected of you, you know? So I just I'm just grateful for the discomfort, even though I don't always love it, but I know that it's my willingness to not run from it and to sit with it and to become friends with it that allows me to go places that I wouldn't go if I was avoiding being uncomfortable or avoiding disappointing people, which is definitely something that I've had to work through. It did not come naturally for me. That trial with my uncle was like, rip the band-aid off. Like, talk about disappointing people. No one wanted this to come to light. It was a complete disruption for my family. And I was kind of the favorite. I was the glue. I was the accommodating, I was even the sunshine girl, the little girl. So, like, I love that I get to decide who I am. And I am a happy person. That's who I am innately. But a lot of the way I showed up was because that's how I was expected to show up. It became more of an act than really connecting. And again, with that true, like, who am I really? Now my yeses have more value. My nos have more value because I don't do anything out of obligation or duty. I do it because I choose it and I see the value in it. And I'm okay saying yes and I'm okay saying no. It's the same for me. And it's freedom. And again, the best gift I've said this so many times, but parenting really boils down to parenting ourselves and then parenting our kids. And we're trying to parent our kids when we don't even know who we are. There's a huge gap there. So do what you need to do to figure your crap out so that you can show up as the purest, truest form of you, which is beautiful and perfect and powerful and audacious and bold and all of these things, and just embrace you. And you'll see things in your life will shift. And it may not always be what you think it should be, but what you'll gain in doing that far exceeds what you might lose in terms of people being disappointed or whatever that looks like. It's essential. So anyway.
And in your one life, do you want to spend it worrying about what other people are expecting of you, or do you want to spend it happy that you're living the life that you chose for yourself and fully and thriving, right?
Oh, for sure.
What advice or tips would you give? Because I'm actually, and I don't necessarily know that this has anything to do with energy work, but I don't know anything about that. But what I want to know is, what tips or tricks would you give to women who are the wife and the mother and the church community leader, because they've been handed these sticks, which are expectations, and they've created a cage, whether they know it's a cage or not. I mean, maybe it's, I'm not saying that you shouldn't want to be the best wife and mother. I'm not, of course I'm not. I'm saying
it should never be your identity.
But exactly. It's what is before that. Before any of these labels were put on you, you were Jennifer.
Yeah.
I was Gina. It's so, how do you help someone get to that place again? And once you're in that place, making yourself better, like you're saying, you're filling your own cup, you're going to be a better wife. You're going to be a better mother.
We totally get that backwards, for sure.
Yeah.
And what I would say is this. My husband will laugh because I'll say, you're optional. Everything in my life, I look at it as optional. Now that might seem kind of callous, but let me explain. If I'm choosing something, I'm choosing something. You always have a choice. You can change your situation. You can change your attitude. You can change, there's a lot of things you can change, even if you can't even always change the situation. So choose what you do. Like me being a mom, I'm not I used to be the typical do the laundry, all the meals, all the parties, all the things. I have somebody that helps me with my laundry. I have somebody that helps me clean the house. I have a full-on business that requires a lot of me. I'm choosing to be the kind of mom I want to be. So I love that. I'm choosing the way I show up. And I know at any moment I can unchoose something so I don't feel trapped. It's when you don't feel like you have a choice that you begin to have resentment, you begrudge things, you have, it's just, you're not really living a truly fulfilled life because you're doing it out of duty or obligation. So I don't care if you're, whether you have kids or you don't have kids, if you're in a religion or out of religion, all of those things aren't going to bring you peace, staying or going, leaving a marriage, staying in a marriage. I always say, and I work with couples, and this isn't always a popular opinion, but I feel like before you exit a marriage, you should, if you can exit a marriage in love, then you're ready. If you exit a marriage in anger and hostility, thinking that that's going to be your solution, getting away from that person, you're going to take that with you into your next relationship. So whatever you do, find a way to love it or leave it. And if you're not loving it, figure out how you can love it or leave it. Now, that seems like pretty dramatic, but really what it boils down to is just choosing what you're doing, and honoring you will allow you to show up in a way that there isn't that frustration and that guilt and that resentment.
Being intentional
And just knowing that you always have a choice. Because again, going back to treading water, feeling stuck, it's one of the worst feelings, that stagnant, stuck feeling. But the way you get unstuck is knowing you always have a choice. You always have a choice. So go to that space and choose what you do, and say yes when you want to say yes, say no when you want to say no, and just allow yourself to just have those options, because you do. We sometimes think that we don't. We always have options. then we're operating from the truer, integrous, like version of ourselves, rather than doing things again out of obligation or because that's what's expected of us.
I love it so much. What do you do with your gals on your retreats? Or what do you do, or have you found that you love as your common practice for getting yourself? I mean, is it affirmations? Is it for getting yourself each day back on track? You know, today was a crap day. Okay, wake up, new day, refresh. I have a
Yeah.
second chance. What's a good routine? I mean, that was probably the question I was looking for in the energy work because I don't know anything about that. But as
Well,
far
so
as
energy work is like, so I have the dig, which is a whole process, a whole
yeah,
training that I do. And I look at it's a trifecta approach. It's spiritual, energy, psychological. It's all of it. Um, Energy speaks louder than words. It's something that we're not all very educated on, and it doesn't need to be overthought or over, you know, it doesn't need to be overcomplicated. But thoughts are energy. Emotions create energy. You can walk in a room and know how someone's feeling before they even tell you by their energy. So I do cut cords 1, 2, 3, 50-foot hole. I get rid of it. I clap. I get rid of energy. I do salt baths. I do energy cleanses every day. That's another training that I've done. But ultimately, I would start with your thoughts. And for anybody that's interested to reach out to me, what I teach and what I'm really passionate about is teaching you to take ownership over all of it. Because what's happening in your life right now, you're generating by your thoughts, by your reactions, by your beliefs. That is energy. When we can clear that out, there's a physiological shift when we clear out limiting beliefs and negative thoughts, and when we don't allow ourselves to go into the spiral, that spiral space. That's energy. Now there's a little more high level way to clear up energy that I also do, but I would start there and just pay attention to what's going through your mind, the way you're responding. There's always another option. If you're not getting the results in your life, if you're feeling like, things aren't working out for you, or you're like waiting for a situation to change to feel like you can have relief, it's like start today shifting the way you look at it and shifting the things that you tell yourself, the little lies you tell yourself. Thoughts are energy, reactions, emotions are energy. If you want to have better energy, clean up your thoughts, clean up your actions. And that, like, what starts here is like what's happening now started here. So again, if you're not like thriving the way you want to be thriving, let's go here and start here and get support, get help. You don't have to do this alone. I didn't get where I am today just like in a room by myself trying to figure it out. It's impossible. We can't see our own blind spots. I believe strongly in teaching people how to heal themselves so they can be as reliant as they can be emotionally and resilient. But supporting ourselves is one piece, getting support from others is another piece. We need both. So I would start there. Meditation is a way to connect with yourselves. I'm a prayer. I used to pray and go. What meditation really is praying and then sitting and listening, hearing. Like, you're busy moms, you're busy in your work, whatever it is, like, we aren't naturally going to be receptive and listen and receive if we don't just stop. We need to stop. So start your day with a little meditation. There's a million options out there, even if it's just some beautiful music. I love Celtic music. I just turn on beautiful music and I sit. You love Celtic music? The
I
Secret
put
Garden is my favorite.
I just put Enya on even just behind me while I'm working, and it just plays
Oh,
over and over and
it's
over again.
so powerful. And so just create a simple way to connect with yourself, to connect with God, to get answers, to get inspiration. Start your day that way so that you're more intentional, you're more connected to yourself. So that when you move on throughout the day, you're working from a cleaner space rather than just reacting.
What I instantly thought about when you were just talking about the way you're thinking about things is when it's when your kids are at certain phases. Have you noticed we always do this when your kids are, oh, it'll be so much better when they can walk. And then they start talking and you're like, oh my gosh, it'll be so much better when they're out of their terrible twos. Oh, it'll be so much better when they're this, or, oh, you know what I mean? Instead of
Oh, for sure.
being in the moment, appreciating, that's such a cliche because it's so true that you're not thinking about things the way that you should be thinking about them in that moment. You're thinking about what's coming next.
Yes, for sure. Sorry, my
That,
battery's almost dead, so I'm plugging in my laptop
oh,
upstairs.
you're fine. You're fine. I totally have these things happen too. I'm the kind of person where I'll be sitting here recording. I'm like, oh, because I've got this checklist. I've got to turn off the air conditioner. I've got to make sure the office ringers are off. I've got to make sure my ringer's off. And so I was sitting here recording with someone, and all of a sudden, this alarm started going off on a phone. And I'm like, what? Where is this coming from? And it was my husband's phone that he had shattered was in my bag because I was returning it, sending that one back, and his alarm was going off in my bag.
Oh
And
my goodness.
I'm so sorry about this. Yeah,
That's
it's
awesome.
all good over here. We're not, I told you,
Live.
easy breezy over here. If I took myself too seriously, I'd shatter every day. So,
Oh, for sure. And that's what I love about you. You just embody, like, you embody what you're trying to help other people achieve. It feels very congruent, and people can feel that. And whether you're an energy person or not, that's really when you have clean energy, is when you are congruent, when there's a disconnect is when we're not listening to our true self, when we're living out of integrity. And that really is something that you just embody that's really inspiring. And you just to know you as short of a time as I've known you, it's just really inspiring the way you just champion for other women. It's very genuine, and you're beautiful, you're talented. You are just this, you're like the package deal that could possibly intimidate people, but you just show up in such a way that is just so pure and loving. And I just think what a gift that is, that you're able to tap into the truest version of yourself, and you're still figuring it out. Like, there's no finish line in healing and evolving and waking up. But I just love that we found each other. And
oh,
if I would have said no about the 300 times I wanted to say no to this event, because it was freaking hard. I mean, it was one of the hardest things I've done. And I do hard regularly. We wouldn't be having this conversation, And so I just think if we can just push through some of those obstacles and some of the discomfort, opportunities like this are available, but they don't just come easy. It takes work and effort. And so just sitting here, just had this moment where I'm like, we're having this conversation because I was willing to do something that was really hard. And I mean, full transparency, I wanted to quit.
yeah.
So this is just a reminder for me, like, I'm speaking to myself, like, it's more than us, the work that we're doing. When we're trying to help people free themselves, it is the greatest. I mean, I love being a mom, but I put this work up there. It's like to liberate women, especially who have felt trapped in whatever that looks like. I'm not a this is wrong or that is right person. I just think you finding what feels true to you and finding peace, whatever that looks like, I'm your girl. I want to help you figure that out. And so just to connect with someone like you that is on the same path is just like, I just want to pinch myself. I love it.
You're so sweet. I have a friend that's just like you that just makes me ooze like, oh, you made me feel so good about myself. And she left me a voice message the other day and I was listening to it in the car and my son sits up and he's like, gosh, she's good for your self-esteem, isn't she? Like, yeah, she's my favorite.
But again, I only say it if I really mean it. Old Jen was, I mean, it's just, it's
Smoke
just
like
who
the
you
best of
are.
them.
Just who you are. You're just that person. So I'm just grateful for this opportunity. I think we need a call now where we can just, I feel like we just started the conversation. So this is just,
Yeah,
this is the beginning of many beautiful, powerful conversations. And I can't wait to spend more time with you in person. The
absolutely.
Unstoppable event was fun and it was great, but it was just, I was spread a little thin.
Yeah.
So I want some more time to spend with you and just to get to know you better.
I'm down. I am down. I'm there. Just plan it, figure it out. I'm there. That's my friend in Minnesota. I'm like, let's have coffee over Zoom tomorrow.
Oh, I love it.
Okay. Because she's, especially it works out
Oh, I
because
love it.
when I'm waking up to have my coffee, just getting back from dropping her kids off so she can have her coffee. So it
Mhm.
actually like works out perfectly. But I'm like, yeah, why not? Let's have Zoom coffee.
I love it. I love it.
But I just, before we close this up, I've had such amazing revelations with you because I feel like you're just, I said this with Emily Frizella, and I honestly, it's not a joke. The podcast for me is so selfish because I get to have these mentors. You know what I mean? I get an hour of a mentor and all of this information that I want for myself. So obviously, I'm hoping that other people want it too. But really, it's things that I know are going to help me. And I feel so selfish for that sometimes, but then I don't. I feel like it's okay.
Well, it's like, the Unstoppable was the biggest birthday party bash I could ever throw for myself. I
Yep.
wanted to meet Glennon Doyle. I
Oh,
wanted to bring all these powerful women together. And so I just created it. And like I said, the party planning was a lot of fun, but the actual implementation was a little bit more challenging. But I love that we can create these things for ourselves.
yeah,
Like you enjoy this. This is such a natural thing for you. And like, it's just a conversation that is so just to take a step out of the everyday and have these kind of conversations. This is what it's all about.
it's true. It's community. It's powerful. It doesn't matter if you're a man, a woman. It doesn't matter. It's the connections. We're human. We need these connections.
For
And we
sure.
all felt that. We all felt the void. And when we
Mhm.
didn't have them and we were lost without them, and we're all
Yeah.
craving it now. Like, I'm like, please just come be my friend. I need community. All of the
Yes.
introverts were like, this is so nice. And all the extroverts were like,
Oh, I'm definitely an extrovert. Ooh, yeah. I'm glad that things are, yeah, we're so grateful for that. Yeah.
well, tell my listeners, where can they find you, and where can they look at, what's the website they can go to look up your the dig and the retreats?
Okay. I would say the best way to start is just Instagram. It's Jennifer Nielsen, Jennifer, lowercase. It's just my name. I have my website on there. I have the dig website. I have a Jennifer Nielsen website. It's www.jennifer-nielsen.com. The big model is another website. Like I said, it's all on my Instagram.
Perfect.
But I would love to connect with anyone who's interested in connecting, even if it's just a conversation like this. Like I'm just like down for deep conversations and supporting each other and cheering each other on. And obviously, I love bringing people into my programs because then they get to know you even better. I'm starting a dig training. It's going to be this Friday and Saturday. Oh, it's tomorrow and Saturday. So it'll already have happened by the time this probably is
Yep.
posted. But I just love to connect with movers and shakers and doers and seekers. That's what I love to do. And whether it's on a podcast, at one of my retreats, or one of my dig trainings, or just whatever that looks like, I'm open. So reach out to me. I'd love to get to know you better, and just know that in the end, it's not what happens to you that causes most of the chaos and suffering in your life. It's what you believe about it. And in that, you have so much power to change your perspective, to change your beliefs. And like, I mean, that is true power. And so I just invite you to just look into that a little bit deeper. Wherever you're right now, just give yourself an opportunity to look a little bit deeper and just be kind to yourself, and just know that you are so powerful and beautiful and wonderful. And we need all of you in this world, not just parts of you. We need all of you. So
That is beautiful. I appreciate that. I hope it lands on the ears that it really needs to land on right now.
I
Right
do too. Well, so much love to you. Thank you for this amazing opportunity, and
you for
can't wait
being
to chat
here
again soon.
with me. It was so fun. Yes, we will definitely talk soon. Thank you
Okay.
again,
Well,
Jennifer.
take care. Have a great day.